Carrington is looking around the room like, oh my God, I've never been in this much fire. I mean, it's getting so bad that now her endorsements are potentially about to pull out.
DiJonai Carrington's career is unraveling in real time and is happening fast. We're not talking about a slow decline over a season or two. We're talking about a wave of controversy that has intensified over the span of a single week. One hard foul, one impulsive social media post, multiple explanations, and now, according to rumors circulating through the WNBA and sports business world, questions are being raised about whether her major endorsement relationships could be affected. At this point, though, those endorsement loss claims should be treated as unconfirmed reports, not established facts. What is clear is that the combination of the on-court controversy, the social media backlash, and the subsequent scrutiny has created a serious reputational challenge that Carrington will have to navigate.
Reebok is reportedly dropping their endorsement for DiJonai Carrington after she attacked Sophie Cunningham.
That's the image right now. A young player in the middle of her career, watching the controversy surrounding her begin to affect not just her reputation on the court, but potentially her sponsorships and brand value off it. Reebok, one of her major partners, is reportedly considering stepping back from its relationship with Carrington. However, those claims remain *unconfirmed*, so this should not be presented as an established fact. What is clear is that the controversy has created significant scrutiny around her public image, and for professional athletes, that kind of attention can have consequences far beyond the basketball court.
Did y'all see what happened when this young lady got ejected from a WNBA game the other day for a flagrant foul on Sophie Cunningham? She mugged her. Damn near came across like decapitating her for crying.
And here's where it gets interesting. Here's where it becomes music, a story about more than just one player's poor judgment. According to the rumors spreading rapidly right now, Reebok isn't just dropping Carrington. They're redirecting their attention toward another Indiana Fever player, a more marketable one, a player who hasn't made impulsive decisions that tank her brand value. Caitlin Clark, the same player whose arrival in the Fever has been the center of so much drama and controversy this season, the same player whose team is now benefiting from another player's catastrophic error in judgment. This is the story of how one moment spirals into multiple crises and how a player's own decisions turned a single bad play into a career-altering catastrophe. Before we talk about the collapse, we need to understand who she is and what she had built. Carrington was drafted into the WNBA as a promising defensive talent. She came into the league with athleticism, defensive intensity, and the kind of competitive fire that coaches value. She wasn't a superstar scorer. That's not her game. But she was a solid rotation player who could contribute on both ends of the floor. More importantly, she had secured endorsement deals. Reebok saw something in her. They saw potential. They saw a young, athletic, marketable player who could grow into a bigger brand. For professional athletes, endorsement deals are crucial. They often represent as much income as, or more than, their actual salary. In the WNBA specifically, where salaries are substantially lower than NBA salaries, sponsorships can mean the difference between financial security and financial instability. Carrington had started to build that security. She was on a trajectory, not a superstar trajectory, but a solid, professional, sustainable trajectory. She was doing what professional athletes are supposed to do, developing on the court while carefully managing her off-court brand. And then one moment changed everything. It was a nationally televised game, the Chicago Sky against the Indiana Fever, primetime basketball. An audience watching Sophie Cunningham, a Fever player and a colleague in the women's basketball space, took off on a fast break, an easy opportunity, a moment where the game was there for the taking. Then, Carrington came from behind. The foul wasn't defensive positioning. It wasn't the case of two players colliding while fighting for the ball. It was deliberate, excessive, flagrant contact with no basketball purpose. Carrington wasn't trying to block the shot. She wasn't trying to contest the layup. She was trying to stop Cunningham through force, through a physical blow to the head and neck. That's not basketball. That's not competitive intensity. That's a choice. And the officials recognized it as such. Flagrant foul penalty 2, automatic ejection, out of the game immediately.
DiJonai Carrington tweeted out white privilege from the locker room of a game that she was playing in. Get this, she fouled Sophie Cunningham hard. Sophie Cunningham, obviously a white person, fouled her hard. Flagrant 2, gets ejected, goes to the...
The national media didn't hold back. They called it what it was. Excessive, unnecessary, dangerous, music, not a playing hard moment, not a competitive play, a foul that could have caused serious injury. Cunningham went down hard. The video went viral immediately. Within minutes, millions of people had watched the play. The commentary had weighed in. The conversation was national. Now Carrington, music, had a choice. Address it professionally or make it worse. She chose to make it worse. Instead of waiting until after the game, Instead of taking time to think about the foul and how to address it, instead of accepting responsibility and moving forward professionally, Carrington went to her phone from the locker room bench and composed a message. 2 words, white privilege, just like that. While the game was still happening, while millions of people were still watching and discussing the foul, while her coaches and teammates were still on the court, Carrington posted those 2 words to her social media account. No context, no explanation, no clarification about what she meant or what she was referring to.
You hit her in the head, you drew blood, you didn't connect with the ball at all whatsoever. So to me, it was just very ignorant and to some degree asinine by DiJonai Carrington to suggest that.
Ignorant, asinine. Those were the words being used by former players and media personalities analyzing what Carrington had done. She had taken a situation where she was clearly in the wrong, where she had committed an excessive foul and tried to redirect blame by bringing up race. She had weaponized a serious issue to deflect accountability, and people noticed and people didn't like it. The conversation was no longer sympathetic. The narrative had shifted entirely. Now Carrington wasn't a player who had made a bad play. She was a player who had made a bad play, got justly punished for it, and then made a worse decision by trying to blame racial bias for a call that had nothing to do with race. She was no longer the victim. She was the villain. At this point, Carrington needed to do one thing, stay silent, let the story die, and move on. Instead, she made it worse multiple times over multiple days with multiple different explanations. First, she claimed she had never said the foul was white privilege. She claimed people were misinterpreting her post. She claimed critical thinking skills were lacking in her critics. I've never once claimed that the assessment of the foul was white privilege. That was your assumption. Try exercising your critical thinking skills. I know you studied psych. Music. She kept going, adding that she was the last thing from ignorant on the subject, name-dropping her education at Stanford. Name-dropping. Her she had posted white privilege. That's literally what she posted. The evidence was right there. The screenshot was everywhere. She couldn't unpost it. She couldn't unsay it. And now she was claiming she had never said it. The dishonesty was compounding the original sin. Then she tried a different approach. She invoked her education. She mentioned Stanford. She suggested that people questioning her intelligence were themselves ignorant. This played terribly. It came across as condescending. It seemed like she was suggesting that her Stanford education gave her special insight that everyone else was too stupid to understand. The perception became worse with each explanation. Each attempt to walk back the tweet seemed less sincere. Each new explanation seemed more defensive. The WNBA community, media personalities, and fans were watching this unfold and becoming increasingly convinced that Carrington wasn't taking responsibility. She wasn't accepting that she had made a bad play and then made a worse decision posting about it. She was doubling down. She was defending. She was attacking people who questioned her. This is how careers get damaged in the social media era. Not because of one mistake, but because of how you respond to that mistake. And then there was Sophie Cunningham's response. Sophie Cunningham is the fever player who was fouled. She's the one who went down hard. She's the one who experienced the excessive contact. She's the one who had every right to respond emotionally, angrily, defensively. But Sophie Cunningham handled it with complete professionalism. I believe the league is addressing that. This has nothing to do with race. Last year, I experienced a similar incident and was ejected, which I deserved. There's no reason to even bring race into this. She didn't attack Carrington. Music. She didn't issue counterattacks on social media. She didn't try to justify why the foul was wrong or unfair. She simply calmly, clearly stated the facts. The foul was addressed by the league. It has nothing to do with race, and there's no reason to introduce racial elements into a basketball play. That response made Carrington look even worse by comparison. Cunningham appeared composed, reasonable, and clear-headed. Carrington appeared defensive, dishonest, and increasingly unstable. This is crucial. In situations like this, the contrast matters. When one party handles something with grace and the other party spirals, observers notice. They remember that contrast, and they judge the spiraling party harshly for it. Carrington had lost the public relations battle entirely. Not because she had committed a flagrant foul, everyone understood that was excessive, but because her response to that foul was worse than the foul itself. Brands are watching this unfold too. Reebok didn't drop Carrington because of the flagrant foul. Flagrant fouls happen, players get ejected, that's part of basketball. But a player who makes an excessive play, gets called for it, and then immediately takes to social media to inject race into a situation where race was irrelevant, that's a liability. That's a player demonstrating poor judgment. That's a player showing a lack of emotional control. That's a player who might do something similar in the future on social media in front of the world in a way that reflects poorly on any brand, music, associated with her. Reebok has plenty of other athletes to sponsor. Reebok has music options. Why maintain a relationship with a player whose judgment is now publicly in question? DiJonai Carrington, just watched her entire career start to unravel in the span of 1 week. And the wildest part is, she did almost all of the damage to herself. Her endorsements are potentially about to pull out. No. The cruelty of this situation is that Carrington did most of the damage to herself. The flagrant foul was bad, but it was a one-game consequence. Ejection, suspension, maybe some fines. The consequences would have been isolated. The tweet, the explanations, the defensive posturing that turned a one-game incident into a career issue, and the rumor is that Reebok is now looking elsewhere for their partnership. They're looking towards someone with better judgment, someone with a cleaner brand, someone like Caitlin Clark. There's a certain irony in who Reebok is allegedly considering as Carrington's replacement, Caitlin Clark, the same player who Carrington's teammates have been resentful of, the same player who has been at the center of this season's chaos on the Indiana Fever, the same franchise that both players represent. From a business perspective, it makes sense. Clark is the biggest star in women's basketball. Clark has the largest platform. Clark commands the attention. Of course, Reebok would want to be associated with Clark, but from Carrington's perspective, this must sting in a particular way. She's not just losing a sponsorship, she's losing it to a teammate. She's losing it to a player on her own franchise. She's watching the opportunity that could have been hers go to someone else, someone that locker room dynamics suggest she may not be close with. This is the cost of poor judgment in the social media era. One impulsive post, one defensive explanation, one attempt to deflect blame by invoking race when race was irrelevant, and suddenly you've lost more than just this week. You've damaged your brand for years to come, learned an expensive lesson about the power of a single social media post, and the rest of the WNBA is watching, taking notes, and understanding that in this era, off-court judgment is just as important as on-court performance. The game is no longer just what happens between the lines. The game is also what you do with your phone in the locker room, and Carrington just learned that lesson in the most expensive way possible.